Episode 19. You Were Never Too Slow for the Hall of Fame. Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good weekend. I am looking forward to chatting with you today about a card I recently got in. I've been excited about getting this card for a long time. And once I got it in, thought, what better way to do it than to share it with those on YouTube who also love collecting sports cards as well. So before I show you the card, let's talk a little bit about the guy that we're talking about. And hopefully you have it figured out before I actually show the card. So born in 1908 in California, this future MLB Hall of Famer, also known as the Schnoz, is the so-called slowest player to ever play in the major leagues. At 6'3", 230 pounds, during the early part of the 20th century, he was definitely a guy to be noticed and one of the larger guys playing in the major leagues. But he started his career in the Pacific Coast League, playing near home in San Francisco in the Bay Area. He also apparently held the bat like a golfer, which didn't appear to hurt his batting average either, though I wouldn't recommend that for the typical baseball player, myself included when I used to play a long time ago. That being said, in 1938, also one of my favorite cards he has that I won't be showing you today, he pulled off a .342 batting average in Cincinnati. If you haven't guessed by now, the guy we're talking about is the very famous major leaguer, the Schnoz, Ernie Lombardi. He was slow and also found a way to hold a record that held for 70 years. That's hitting into 30 double plays. The Sabre article that I got a lot of this information from also talks about an old saying at the time. It goes something like this. He would hit a double to left and be able to get a single out of it. So Ernie Lombardi was slow. I would compare him probably similar to Martin Maldonado, who plays for the Astros. He's a great caller, good arm, but just can't hit it that far. He did end up winning several batting titles, though, and I think one year even hit like 19 home runs. So not too bad for a guy hitting in that era. Regrettably, the end of baseball was also the end of the good times for the Schnoz. He had a lot of issues after that. I won't get into all that today, but it started from a play that happened in the 1939 World Series, where the New York Yankees faced off with the Cincinnati Reds. Well, I'm talking about Cincinnati Reds. I got Cincinnati Reds stuff on. Anyway, in Game 4, the Reds were down 3-0 and were able to push Game 4 into extra innings. There, a single that was hit by none other than Joe DiMaggio caused a play that would live in infamy for the Reds and a famous play for the Yankees from there on out. So Joe DiMaggio hit what should have been a single, and it turned into an infield home run. Part of the reason for that is there was a play at home, and Ernie was, it appeared, either hit in the groin or was hit in a way that the cobwebs got knocked loose for a second, and he laid there. And so it allowed for Joe to start coming home. And when the cobwebs kind of start to, make sense, Joe's still running home and Ernie is starting to search for the ball. Joe jumps over Ernie, scores another run, and eventually the Yankees would go on to win that series. This very infamous play would regrettably define his career, as from there on out he would be known as Lombardi Snooze, or the Lombardi Snooze as it's called as the play. I've put a link down below for it as well. So I won't get into all the ins and outs of that story, but needless to say, it affected Ernie for quite a while. That ghost would plague him for the rest of his life, and probably also was a big part of preventing him to be elected into the Hall of Fame until after he passed away. So he passes away in 1977, and in 1986 is elected to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. So I want to close this out by showing you the card and also reading you a story by Thomas Sowell. And if you don't know who Thomas Sowell is, I also recommend looking him up. I'm a huge fan of his as well, and he's more of an economist that talks about a lot of different things. But here is what he said as I show you this card. Make sure we got no glare there. All right. Thomas Sowell uses the playing career of the Schnoz as an example of overcoming adversity. Sowell would say, and these are quotes here, "It is a good reflection on America that they tend to be on the side of the underdog, but it is often hard to tell who is in fact the underdog or why. Many years ago, there was a big lumbering catcher named Ernie Lombardi, whose slowness of foot was legendary. Someone once said that not only was Ernie Lombardi the slowest man who ever played in the Major League Baseball, whoever was the second was probably a lot faster runner than Ernie Lombardi. When Lombardi came to bat, infielders played back on the outfield grass. That gave them more range in getting to the balls that Lombardi hit. They could snare line drives that would otherwise be base hits. With ground balls, they could easily throw to first from the outfield grass and get the slow-moving Lombardi out. Despite all that, Ernie Lombardi had a lifetime batting average of .306 and even led the league in batting a couple of years. But many people said that if Ernie Lombardi had just average speed, he could have been a .400 hitter. One day, as a teenager, sitting on the Polo Grounds, the stadium where the then New York Giants played, I was privileged to watch a historic event. Ernie Lombardi laid down a bunt. The crowd went wild. The play took forever, with Lombardi laboriously clumping down to first base, running as hard as he could, but still not very fast. While the third baseman made a long run in from the field to get the bunt, we cheered ourselves hoarse. For Big Ernie, as he doggedly but slowly made his way down for the first base line. He barely beat the throw, which set off another explosion of cheers. We were not just cheering for a hometown player. We were rooting for Lombardi to get revenge on those who had taken advantage of him for so long. We were cheering for the underdog. Was Lombardi really an underdog? How many players end up their careers with a lifetime batting average of over .300, or with 2 batting titles? Like most of us, Lombardi was handicapped in some ways and privileged in others. Sowell would go on to talk some about his own personal life and then conclude with this. It must have been discouraging for Ernie Lombardi, especially in his early years, to be repeatedly thrown out at first base on balls that would have been base hits for anybody else. But he couldn't let himself dwell on that. Not and win 2 batting titles. That was just something I had to share, something that we take for granted when we just assume and look at our weaknesses. And Ernie Lombardi use those to his advantage by hitting a career 306 batting average. So as you can see, this is a older SGC scored card, and to be honest with you, I kind of like it that way. I don't know why, but it's a beautiful card. The backs of these cards are always neat with all the information they have on them as well. So that's all I wanted to share on the cards. But anyway, guess I better let you guys go. I'm way over time. Thanks for watching. See you later, guys.